Hey guys, my name is Ismas. Welcome to another Blender live stream. So today we're going to be creating this title sequence for the 100 series. The one for the TV series, the 100. Yeah, so open up your Blender application and let's do some fun stuff. Okay, so let's delete this. Maybe just get a screenshot of this. I think I had that here, so let me just have it as a reference image here. So bam, like so. I hope everything is going well for you guys, and so this is what we are going to create. Let me first share this to my Facebook. Okay. Let me make sure that everything is great. Yeah, so this is what we're going to create using Blender's rigid body bullet physics, and yeah, let's get to it. So these other parts here, the THE and one, are very easy. Let's begin with this collision here. So what we are trying to create is this scene here, that collision there. That is what we are going for. So let's begin by adding this. Let's add a text object. So Shift A. Let me add on this screencast add-on screencast so that you can see the keys I'm using. And okay. So Shift A, then add a text. Let's rotate it out to faces, and let's just type 00 for 100. Maybe we can we're going to deal with only 10, and then we can duplicate it and flip it the other side to get our collision. But let's first change the font to something more like that. So fonts. Let's try Roboto Black. So Roboto, that's R. Roboto. Roboto. Let's go with Roboto Black. That is Roboto Midi. Roboto. I wish there was a way to preview these fonts, not just a text. So, how about if you try Arial Bold? Still on that circular. So let me just go to Photoshop and see what font we can work with here. The 100. Let me just get a better font that matches what we are trying to get. So let's run through these. No. Yeah, I think I saw something here. This could work. So it is Berlin Sands. So let's find that. So Berlin Sands, Berlin. Was it B-A-B or B-E? B-E. So B, Berlin's. It could be one of these. No, not that one. So no, it's Berlin, not Berlin. B-E. sometimes they're abbreviated, so that's why I think it's this. This is bold. Let's see, Berlin. Yeah, let's just go with this. So we can add, we can extrude it, give it an extrusion. That's too much, so let's reduce that around there and give it a bevel depth around there, and add maybe a resolution of 2. And now let's reduce the preview resolution because we don't need that much resolution right now. So let's try something around there. So, and now we can convert this into a mesh. Maybe let's duplicate this and put it on a different layer for backup, and then convert this into a mesh, and this is what we have. And now some of these are separate layers, are separate meshes, so we need to merge them into one mesh. So just select everything and hit W on your keyboard to remove any doubles, and now it's one mesh like that. That's what we want. So we can add a loop here so that we have even rectangles there, and so this is what we have. So we're going to be using the fractal fracture add-on. So you can see I've already activated it here. But for you, oh sorry, okay, let me reduce that music. Thank you for that. Hey Maze, thank you for letting me know about that. So so what we should do is I'm forgetting what I was talking about. So yeah, we're going to be using the cell fracture. We're going to be using the cell fracture to make those fractures there. But before we do that, because we want to texture this mesh as well, we need to unwrap it first, so that when we apply a texture after we fracture it, those fractured pieces will have the texture as well. So let's mark some seams here. So Control E, mark seam, and let's split this area, change the view UV, and then unwrap that. Okay, so we can add another loop here, mark seam, unwrap. We can also add another seam there, Control E, mark seam, unwrap, and that's what we have for UVs. That's what we have for UVs. I think that's good enough. Can just bring this on top of this and just scale this. We can also rotate this here, and we can add a UV image, a UV grid, to see how the textures look. And we can add a new material, and in the color, let's change this to image, and select our UV grid as the image. And now if we go to material mode here, you can see the textures. You know what, let's first remove some of these seams, because I only want to deal with one. I want this to be uniform everywhere. So let's see. Let's remove these two seams, clear seams, unwrap. Materials, Control E, clear seam, Control E, maxi, unwrap. Let's see. Maybe we can add another loop here. Control E, maxing, and unwrap again. And this is what we have. There are some issues here. I think let's make this and that. J, unwrap again. Let's look at the materials. So we have this. So now that we have the UV done, the UV unwrapping done, we can add another material that will be on the fractures that we make. So now to add this, to activate this fracture, I don't just hit Control Alt U to bring up the user settings. Control Alt U to bring up the user preferences and search for it's called cell fracture. Click on that, check that to bring it up here. And now you can select the mesh you want to fracture and hit cell fracture, and we can let's put our 3D cursor around here where the collision will happen, the impact of collision will happen. So and set the recursive shutter to close to cursor close, and let's increase the recursions to about 1. Let's see what else can we change here. And for the material index, let's set to this will give the material, the second material, the fractured objects a different material from the main mesh. You see that after we make the fracture. Now we can hit OK, and the fracturing will start taking place. And let's go to, so it adds those fractures on a different layer. You can see these are the fractured elements. And yeah, I think because of how we unwrap this, our UV is a bit messed up, but I think because we're going to be using some texture that doesn't have a very precise pattern like this, you won't be able to see those. But so if we go and add a new material to this and go to the settings and change the hello American Dream, what's up, how are you doing? And if we change the viewport color, maybe this, and come to, let's see, let's change the color here as well and see. Let's change this to solid. Where should we change that? Materials. It's supposed to be materials. And so let's first unhide this. I'm good, man. I'm really good. Just doing some stuff here. So you can see that the inside parts have this material here. I think we made a mistake here. We needed, no, we just, yeah, I think we did a mistake here. So let's delete everything here and go back to this and set up a material for the second, for the fractured element. So let's let's call these fractures, and let's give it a viewport color of purple. Let's first remove this and see how it, okay, it's supposed to look like that. And let's give the other material a viewport of a pink or purple, whatever. Move that up, and let's first delete this one, and again add back the other one, because we need the fractured material to be the second material, or to have this the second material index. So now we can select this object and hit cell fracture, and we can now make sure that you give this a material index of 1, so that the fractures have this fractures material, or the material on the second slot there, and then we can click OK, and we can get our fractures. And we just need to wait a few seconds. So it has added that, and you can see now our fractures have that material. So let's just change it to something like that, so that we can easily see it. You see, that's what we have for our materials. And so if we play this Alt A, see, nothing happens, because the fracture doesn't add any rigid body properties to the fracture. So we need to select everything, go to the physics tab, and add active to make them rigid bodies. And now if we play back, you can see they just fall down. So in the animation you see here, they just float in the air, like there is no gravity. So we need to remove the gravity in the scene so that we have the same effect. So we can come here, and we can come to this, I don't know how is it called, scene settings, and under rigid body weights, we can turn the gravity all the way down. So now if we play back, it is just exploding, because we need to reduce I think it's called, what is it called? It's called, let's see, collision margin, I think. Let's change. Oh, we need to change the collision, the shape to mesh, and make sure we change, I think, copy. After you change here, just click copy it from active to copy all the settings to the different fractures. Okay, now we need, let's mesh deform shape. Let's try imagining. Let's see, where is this surface. Let's try again and see. Select everything. Make sure that the object we selected, we changed our settings for, is the active object. Let's say copy from active and play back again. Okay, I think there is a setting you can change during the fracture settings that we can use. So let's first delete everything here. Come back to the original mesh and try to refracture it. I think there is a margin. The setting for this margin here is what you have to change. Let's try 0.1, and let's reduce the recursions to 0 and see. And then I'll make sure the material is still set to 1, and then click OK. And let's see. Okay, so that's too big. that margin is too big. So let's go back, fracture again, because in the other option we need to go back to fracture, change the margin, reduce the margin, let's say 001. Yes, 0001 fracture. And let's add the physics active. See, it's not exploding anymore, so that's what we need. Remember, we turned off gravity in the gravity weight. If we add it there, it will just fall off. But the animation we are going for does not have that much gravity. The particles just explode in the air, and so we should, if we play back, let's reduce the gravity to 0, so we don't have anything there. And for the collision, we can add a plane, rotate it 90 degrees, and so we are going to use this as the collision object. Let's add a keyframe there, and maybe to about the 10th frame we'll bring it so that it collides with that object. So you see, but still nothing is happening because this is not a rigid body. So we can come and add to the physics tab here and make it a passive rigid body. And if we play back now, let's turn off. Make sure that in the rigid body settings you turn on animated, and we have that, so it's colliding with the particles, with the object. So, but I think it has a lot of energy, so we can come in to this frame. It should start off somewhere near so that it doesn't have that much collision energy. Maybe starts off around there. Still too much. Still too much. So let's see now. Let's try again. Yeah, so that's what we have. Let's scale this down. Let's reduce the frame, the size of the timeline. So that's what we have. But the collision energy is still a lot, and I'm not sure of how this was fractured. So let's change that a bit. Let's change this. Let's delete everything. Come back to this and refracture this again. So go to the tools and then fracture. Let's turn the recursion again to 1. Make sure the material is set to 1 as well, and then hit OK. Hello there, multi-talented concept. What's up? How are you doing? Let's see the fractures. You can see it adds more fractures where we added the 3D cursor, because we set the recursive shutter to cursor close. That means that it adds more fractures where the 3D cursor is. So again, since this is now a new object, it doesn't have these are new fractures. They don't have any physics properties. So let's select everything and don't select this. Let's deselect the plane and go to the physics tab and add active. and that's what we have. I think this is much better, but the collision, this is coming in really fast, too fast. So let's see how we can reduce this. Maybe let's first delete these keyframes. Delete keyframes, and maybe scale this like that, and at around 30 seconds it comes in and collides there. So let's see, go back to the timeline. So again, because of the margin, because the particles are too small, I think they are intersecting with each other. That's why they are exploding before even the collision starts. That setting is, I think, I'm forgetting what setting changes that. Deactivate. I think it's called the collision margin. It's called the collision margin. So you switch that on. Let's try one, and let's go to textured. You see, if we add a texture to this, it will have the outside parts will maintain the original texture, but then the inside parts will also have a different texture, and that's what we are going for. But I want to fix the collision margin for everything for these shapes. Let's see. So let's select this as the active shape. Let's just select any shape. So that is the active shape, and we can come in, set the collision margin. Let's try 1, and copy from active. Okay, 1 is too much, so let's try 0.01. Copy from active, again, copy from active. So 0.01 is still, I think that's, let's try 0.01. Is that even possible? Let's try copy from active. If we remove that, they explode, so we need to have that there, so it needs to be 0.01. And then copy from active. We can increase the collision velocity by just speeding up this mesh animation. So can bring this a bit closer, maybe reduce it even more. So let's remove the scale. Let's just make this as a cube. Let's try rotating this at an angle and see. Delete those and delete these rotation. So After you're satisfied with your explosion or collision, you can come to this physics tool, physics tab, select all the fractures and hit bake to keyframes. And everything, the entire animation set will be turned into keyframe animations. So that we have, so that you don't have to recalculate the physics animation again and again. And now let's change this to textured so that we see how. Now if we find, let's see if I have any textures. So texture heaven, browse, let's try this. Just go with anything random. I'll just download all maps, JPEG. Yeah, so this is a free website. This is a website where you can download free textures. It's called Texture Heaven. So we have that, and just copy them. So I think I have it saved. I'll just call this the 100. Yes, JPS. Yes, I am using cell fracture. And let me first save here and I show you what I'm doing. So the 100, the 100. What's up? Yeah, so I'm using cell fracture, and what I did, and I converted the physics calculations into keyframes. And if you're wondering about the gravity, so I came into the physics and in the scene settings, and I turned off the gravity so that when the particles collide or when there is a collision, these don't just fall down. They can float in the air, like in this animation here. You can see they're just floating in the air. They're not falling down. Yes, so after you turn this into keyframes, we can come now to somewhere like this, add how is it called, an empty. We can use a cube. Let's turn off keyframe animation. Select everything and then parent that to the empty. Now we can move this anywhere we want. We don't need this cube anymore, so we can delete that, and we can duplicate this by holding down Alt D so that you duplicate the instance, not the an instance of this, so that any changes we make to this, they can be duplicated to this duplicate. So you see we have the same animation, but now we can rotate this by 180 degrees, and see it's like they're colliding with each other. And so we can set a keyframe. So where does the collision start? I think it starts around there. And if you want to extend the collision, what time the collision starts, you can go to the graph editor. Make sure you have this unchecked, this cursor here unchecked, so that you see all the keyframes. And you can select everything, all the keyframes, and then grab them in the X direction, and you can pull them back to give yourself a delay time you want. So we have pulled them, I think, around 10 seconds. So now the animation starts at around 20 seconds. If you want it to start at around let's say 50 seconds, we can pull them back up to around 50 seconds. So you see nothing happens here until we reach our 50 seconds. So now at around here, you can set a keyframe for this and make sure we have keyframe recording switched on, and then pull this back and come back to this other keyframe there, and here pull this back. So let's see. I see, it seems like they are slowing down. The animation slows down as they are about to collide. So that's because, let's switch this back on. The curves here are set to Bezier. So we need to change the animation type to vector. I think it's called keyframe handle type to vector, so that there is no slowing down as we get to the next keyframe. So let's see. We have that. If you want, we can pull this a few seconds in like that. And now let's see, let's add our camera. Because we already set up the materials and the UVs, we can just come, let's change this to materials, or to materials, and change this to node editor. Select the first one. Remember, we have the UV grid as our texture, but we have downloaded some textures from Texture Heaven. So let's copy those into our project. So CG Trader, the 100, I'll paste that there, and extract our files here. Okay. So I can use these textures. So let's see. I should change this to principal shader. And then maybe can change this to rendered mode and add an environment texture. So let's see, watch. Okay. So this is the alpha. This is the alpha channel. Let's add on the mapping. Let's try a scale of 10 by 10 by 10 by 10. And let's add another image. Duplicate this image texture, I think about 4 times. This is the diffuse, which should be mixed using the mixed color RGB with the ambient occlusion. Set this to multiply. Let's set this to materials. Make sure that this has the same mapping. And let's see, we have the displacement, so this can go directly to this, but we need to make sure it also has the same mapping. And we have what, roughness. This goes to the roughness there, and it has the same UV mapping. And let's see now, if we go to rendered mode, we have that. Let's try metallic. And basically that's the setup. And if you want another texture, a different material for the fractures, just come to the fractures material and set the color you want. So maybe you want it to be blue like that. And let's see, maybe let's change this to metallic and use that kind of roughness. Let's change color management. Let's change this to filmic. Let's add a background. So just give this white. Let's try to render this and see. Let's see it. Yeah, basically that's it. And the other part, you just need to type in the THE and then the 1, animate them slowing down, and basically that's it. And maybe add some compositing there, and you'll be good. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.